Everybody, is Anthony Brogdon, your main man, coming at you once again. Oh man, I got a lady on the channel today. Y'all gonna love this sister. Woo! She sharp. She ready. She got some information for you that is gonna intoxicate your mind. Because that's what we do here at Strong Inspiration. I'm Anthony Brogdon. I'm an ordinary guy trying to do something extraordinary via the people who come on the show. We over 4 years strong doing this. I'm gonna do this from now on. Strong Inspirations has made me a better person as a result of the people who come on the show. Because I ask questions that I want to know the answer to, and hopefully y'all do too. So, because it makes me more wise. I'm a wiser person. I'm inspired. I'm motivated, and to also help other people. So hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspirations. It's free. I do this because I want you all to know these stories, and it helps me. I ain't gonna lie to you. I got a personal investment in this. I hit the note, the bell that says you like the video. There is no love button, so hit the like button. Hit the notifications bell when videos come up. You get a ding, a shock, a smoke signal, something. Your horn on your car flickers. One guy said his cell phone bell goes off because then you know there is new content on Strongest. And tell somebody. Don't keep it to yourself, my friends. You sitting there watching it, you becoming so much smarter. You let's say you at the bar, you meet a young lady, you tell her some strong information stuff, so then she like you, and you don't even tell her where you got it from. Don't do that. You young lady, you sitting there and you see a guy, and you say, "Who? Let me tell you, I know some good Black history." Don't tell them where you got it from. Share this. Share it at your schools, and so on and so forth. I really appreciate it. My numbers are up. I'm over 600 guests, and more to come. Like this lady, I'm telling you, y'all gonna really like this. She gonna blow your mind. Very knowledgeable, highly recommended, a pillar of her community on Strong Inspirations. Did you see the one I did with the lady out of Jacksonville, Florida, she desegregated or integrated a school? And she said them kids tried to kill her one day, and then the principal would not allow her to call home. She had to stumble across the street to use the payphone. And then her dad said, "Hey, well, forget all that. You ain't got to do it." She said, "I'm going back. They're going to have to kill me to stop me from making this mark in history." Watch that video. Did you see the one I did with the guy who he hate the N-word? Nigger. He hate that word so bad he sued the dictionary publishers and won out of one of those instances. And they had to take the word out of the dictionary. I didn't even know it was in there. Unbelievable. That brother made me cry. I had a few tears up here on my show. I ain't gonna lie, I couldn't hold it in. I just did one with a guy who he helped kids. He said, "I teach them Black history." He down in Florida. He said, "I don't care what they do to me. I'm got to let them know how great we are." Watch that video. Watch them from all over the world. I got them from Africa and Australia and so on and so forth. Now, I got a couple of housekeeping notes. I'm a filmmaker, everybody. Business in the Black, the rise of Black business in America. This is the DVD case. It is streaming on Amazon. Rich Black folks in the 1800s. I wrote a book on it, everybody. Get you a copy of this book. It is now America's #1 Black business history book. It's very reasonably priced because I want you to have it. I don't need them in my basement no more. So get you a copy of this and get you a copy of They Did It for Children. It's 30 rich Black people that lived in the 1800s. And both of the books, and also where I'm speaking at, I'm going around the country telling these stories, is on my website, businessintheblack.net. So do that for me, my friends. Let me tell you something. My favorite word is the word strong. I love strong. And I try to be a strong guy, even work out a little bit so I can stay strong. And in my world, strong stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And that is the introduction to the Strong Soul Sister on the channel today. Come on, let's get it on. Introduce yourself.
Aquaba, Nangadef, Mowini, Hodi. I greet you in the tongues of many African nations of which we flow from. I am Professor Anita M. Jope. I specialize in African American, African, Caribbean culture and the arts. I just recently retired from Hopkinsville Community College, teaching African American history and American history. And I am the founder and the executive director of the African Roots and Heritage Foundation. We started in Detroit in 2005, and actually, just 2 days ago, on the 11th of February, we're celebrating 20 years of African Roots and Heritage Foundation.
I love it. I love it. Let me stop you there. I got to do this. I mean, no disrespect, you jamming, and the way you introduce them words is beautiful. I tell you. But I got to ask a couple questions about you. Let the audience get to know you. Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, Motown.
There you go. There you go. Oh man. And were you born in a black neighborhood, or did you know some white people? What was that dynamic?
We were. I was born in a black neighborhood, Dexter and McQuaid area. But in 1972, we integrated the current neighborhood that my mother bought in 1972. We were the first black people on our block in Northwest Detroit, 7 Mile and Lasher area.
No, really? Okay. Well, how did that feel? Were you afraid over there being the first black? Did you get teased or any of those kind of things?
I wasn't afraid, yet we did experience, people throwing eggs at our house, and even we had a cross burnt on our lawn.
Oh, is that right? Really?
Yes, but going to school was the first time I went to school with non-black people. And what I found out about these non-black people, they're not smart.
Okay, I love it. I gotta go back to the cross though. How did they get the cross and y'all didn't see it? I know they do it in the middle of the night, but you just
Middle of
didn't
the
hear
night.
them putting it in the ground?
In the middle of the night. So
And it burned? They had it on fire?
yeah, it
Who,
wasn't
who
even a
saw
big
it
one,
first when
but
you
it was
woke up in
big
the morning?
enough. It was big enough for us to know the next day. But right after that, I say within a few months, there was white flight. Within the first year, the whole block became black. So we weren't terrorized long.
Who woke up first to see the cross burning?
Uh, we didn't actually see it burn. I guess it burnt over the night, but when we got up to go to school, or my mother got up to go to work, she was the first one to see it because she was the first one out of the house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did y'all report it to the police?
We did. She did.
And did it make the news and that kind of thing?
I don't remember it making the
Yeah.
news. I don't
How, how,
remember.
how did that shape you?
Well, we had seen movies and things like that happen. Um, it just wasn't, how could I say? It was surreal. And I was even more determined to do my best because I come from a family of excellence. So that was a small thing. Even though it was a big thing looking back on it, at the time, I think I was 9 or 10 years old. And like I said, it didn't shake me up or cause any fear, because we sort of anticipated there would be some backlash.
Oh
And I
yeah.
believe my mother prepared us for that um, during that time.
Okay, let me
So we
ask you
went
this:
to school
if
as
you
usual.
if you can reflect back and say you ain't gotta say when that happened, but let's say if it happened in the 40s, and that's a different dynamic. What do you, how could you understand how they felt when that happened to them back in the 40s and 50s, and say how that might have did how you might have felt in some respects or whatever?
Yes, because it's definitely a feeling of rejection, a feeling of it could be worse. How far are these non-black people willing to go to harm us? That always carries with us, even to this day, even things that my mother told me and things I adopted as an adult in this day and age. One thing that I would never do, say if I'm in a tall building and there's an elevator and there's a non-black man in that elevator, I would not get in that elevator.
Really?
Yes. Now, if
You
it's the
say
whole group of
non-black. Why you
people,
don't call them white?
they're non-black, they're non-melanated.
Okay, I got you there.
Mm-hmm.
So did you go to school with white kids? Did you ever end up playing with white kids at some point and saw the difference between those who had hate and those who didn't?
Uh, we went to school with them, but we were still segregated. There were some that tried to be friends, but they didn't get friendly or closer associated until high school.
Yeah,
In high school, I went to Cass Tech, and they were in the minority, so they were on their best behavior.
yeah. You,
But in
you,
elementary school, they were in the majority, and they weren't so on their best behavior. They felt as if we were encroaching upon their territory. But being in academics, I have to say that Detroit Public Schools at that particular time served me very well, because when I changed from the all black school with predominantly all black teachers to the white school and the white teachers, that's when I realized these people are not smart
I
at
got
all.
let me ask you this. When you said something earlier, you said your mom told you that something might happen. How did that conversation go? Did she tell you always be on the lookout? What might she had said, or what did she say?
Well, one of the things that we did experience before, I told you we grew up on Dexter and McQuaid, Dexter Joy Road area to be more specific. I think I was 3 years old when the army tanks came down the street because of the riots in '67.
Right, right.
And so we were taught to stay away from the windows and stay into the interior of the house. And if anything seems out of the way, don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated by anybody that may say, don't tell your mother or I'm going to kill you, those kind of things. No, you come tell somebody something, because that's when they have the advantage over you, when you are steeped in fear. So she taught us not to be afraid.
Hmm. You became how did you choose your career to be a historian? Was that yeah, yeah,
Now this is where our ancestors come in. This is where our spirituality come in. I was actually led by a series of dreams. When I was 6 years old, uh, I was outside playing. It was a very hot day, and I was just running up and down the driveway because we had specific rules. One, girls shouldn't go outside to play. That was the first thing. So the most you could do is play in the driveway. You couldn't be up and down the street. Girls were not up and down the street. Now the boys, they can go up and down all around the whole neighborhood, but the
I
girls,
got
we had to stay in front of the house and no further than the end of the driveway. So I was running up and down the driveway, and I guess in one moment I was in Africa and in a stadium, and the stadium was filled with all kind of African people. And you seen chiefs and chiefs among chiefs, and then there was one chief that looked like he was the greatest chief of all the chiefs. And he circled around me and he said, "Who are you?" And of course, with my confidence, I said, "I am Anita Marie." And he said, "No, that is the name that your mother has given you. I want to know, who are you?" And I looked puzzled because, I'm filled with confidence. I'm Anita Marie. What is he talking about? And so he went on to say, "You are the spirit of Africa.
Wow.
And you will bring my people together. The spirit of Africa is one." So I came up out of the dream and I forgot the dream until I went to college. And in college, I wasn't sure of my major. I really didn't know which direction I wanted to go in. And my advisor said, "Well, come take an African studies class." And so I went to her class, and within 30 minutes, I said, "I got it. Yes, I'm going to major in Africana studies."
Okay,
And
let me
so,
stop you there. Let me stop you there. I mean, no, this. I want to go back just a second again. I meant to ask you this earlier. Where is the enslavement in your family? Do you know that?
where's the enslavement in my
Right,
family?
right. You know how we all got some southern roots and they figure that's where it was. Do you know that story?
Okay, yes. Well, I can tell you where my people were taken from, and that's Cameroon, which is in Central Africa.
Oh, okay.
Uh, we came, my father's side of the family is from South Carolina, and my mother's side of the family is from Georgia. And ironically, both families migrated to Detroit in the 40s.
Okay.
Just after my mother and father was born, their families migrated to Detroit.
Yeah, sure. And how did you know they came from Cameroon?
I did a DNA test.
Okay. How do we know to believe the DNA test? They can tell us anything. Why do you know to believe that? I've
Okay.
always wanted to ask that question.
Okay, I'm gonna go back into my spirituality. All
Right.
right. So I told you I had a series of dreams. A series of dreams actually led me to Angola, the Congo, and Cameroon. And I believe it was in 2013, I had taken a temporary job and there wasn't much to do. So I said, well, let me just write a story. So I wrote a story, which I thought was imaginary, of going into the Congo, Angola, and Cameroon to find my roots. And it was, to me, it was a beautiful story. And 2 years after I had written that story, my son and daughter said, "Mama, you go to Africa all the time. Why have you not gotten your DNA test?" And I said, "I really just don't know." And so they bought me a DNA test for my birthday. And I took the DNA test, and then I had a series of travels with the African Union. I went to the Congo, and from the Congo, I went to Angola, and from Angola, I went to Cameroon. The DNA test came back after these two events, and it said that the highest part of my DNA was from the Congo, Angola, and Cameroon.
Wow. Well, you diverted there just a tad, and I want to go back. You said something I had already been going to Africa. When was your first trip to Africa?
I went to Africa in 1997.
What made you go, and how did you get there? How did you buy the plane ticket? Did you
Well, I
take the
was
vaccine shots? What was the motivation at that before you went?
I had decided to take Africana studies, and one of my professors was actually from Africa, and they were doing an independent study tour. So I signed up. And how did I finance it? Well, I got a student loan. I was getting student loans to attend my college. And instead of blowing the money when I got it, I said, this is my ticket to Africa.
Okay.
Mhm.
How much did it cost? You remember?
At, at that time, it was $3,500
That's a lot of money.
for 30 days.
Yeah. That included airfare, lodging, everything.
It included everything. We went to 5 different countries. I used to have it tabulated, but I forgot how many airplanes we went on, how many cruise ships, how many trains we went on. I used to have a whole list, but I've gotten away from it now. But it was 30 intensive days in 5 different countries. When we got back, I think it took me at least 6 to 7 weeks to recuperate because from the time we got up in the morning, we were going boom, 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 boom. And what I really appreciated is that even though it was a tiring experience, he wanted to pack as much of Africa in us before we returned back to the United States.
Okay, let me go
You,
back.
I'm gonna
Let me,
tell you, I think that
wait.
happened while I was in Africa. Um, the first country, well, the second country we went to was Ghana. And I made a group of friends and I had told them my itinerary. They said, wow, you're the Ghana princess. And then after I went to so many countries and came back to Ghana, they said, no, you're not the Ghana princess. You are the African princess. And I'm like, wow, that can stick. And then a few days later, came home to the United States, back to Detroit, and I was telling my friends about all the activities and the places we went, and they began to call me the African princess. So
Wow.
I said, okay. So if you see any of my email addresses, it's the African princess.
I
I was the
love it.
African princess for a number of years until I
I love it.
decided, I guess
Yeah.
I could age into the queen.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let me ask you this then. When you got off the plane, is there airports like our airports? Did it have a did the gate go out to the plane, or you get off and you walk to the ground? You know how you do in the Caribbean. There's no gate that comes there that you walk through the tunnel. That you get off at the land, and then what was do you if you remember one of the first things you saw and said, "Dang, this
Well,
is yeah." How did that go when you first landed?
the first place we landed was Senegal. And the first thing you notice is the height of the people. They're just so tall and they're so dark. And it's like, wow. But we did exit the plane. And sometimes, depending on the airport, either you will actually walk over to the airport or you would take a shuttle bus. And I remember one shuttle bus, it was so they could have really let us walk because it was 10 steps, but they put us on the bus and the bus just kind of like moved up and let us off.
Okay, okay, okay,
So we could have walked this. And
yeah.
the airline that we flew on was Air Afrique. And I always regret that they went out of business and they have not been able to salvage that airline. But one of the things that I want to make mention of, and some of the older travelers may have witnessed this, when we landed in Senegal, everyone did this.
Uh,
I've never seen that done in any other country. Only in Africa do they give that clap for a safe landing. And
who
it's
does? Who
beautiful.
does?
The Africans.
On the ground, or the flight attendants?
No, the people on the airplane, when the plane comes in to land and they securely at the gate, then all the passengers will break out
Oh,
into
I
this
see.
clap. And that clap is a praise saying thank you that we landed. And all things give thanks. So that's one of the things that I noticed. And you see, I picked up the beat.
Yeah.
And even now, when I travel on different airlines, some people may say, but then I'll say,
So you do it. You do it every time.
yes,
Oh, I got you. I got
yeah.
you. Well,
See,
I'm because I'm not been, and for those who watch this have not been, but other than seeing black people, was the landscape similar to some other landscape? Like if you landed in Utah here in America, or where there's mountains, or what was what was that look like? Was the airport big or whatever?
at the time, the airports were not so big. The airport in South Africa was the airport that's most similar to what we're used to in America. But
Yeah.
the other airports were small at that time. But now they have upgraded their airports, and you can expect the same services for being provided in these African countries.
Okay.
The thing that as far as the terrain, you can go from the desert to the rainforest to the mountains to the coastline and the sea. You can see every part or every type of terrain in Africa. In some countries, you can see it all. In other countries, you might only see one thing, like in Senegal, most because they have what is that, the green effect, the erosion of the greenery. You're going to see the desert. It's hot, it's dry. In Ghana, you're going to see the rainforest. You're going to experience the moisture and so much foliage that you just don't, well, you don't see that in Detroit.
Okay. I got
Mm-hmm.
to ask you this one. I got to stay on this because I want people to know. What about passports and visas and stuff when you go, and getting through customs? What's that like?
Okay. Um, to travel outside of the United States of America, each person must have a passport. If you're a citizen, you must have a U.S. passport. And what that is, that's your international identity that tells other people which country is of your nativity or nationality. Visas are for the various countries that you want to travel into, and a visa actually gives you permission to enter into that country. And usually there's an application process for the visa where you disclose what is the nature of your business there. Are you there as a student? Are you coming as a relative? Are you coming for a conference? And you have to tell them where you're staying so they know who is coming into their country and for what purpose.
Okay, now, so let's go into some more of your story. How many countries have you been to, and how many times have you been to Africa?
I don't remember how many times I have been because I have been to several countries several times, but the total number of countries I have visited is 32.
Out of how many?
32 out of 54 countries I have visited in Africa.
You got a favorite?
Cameroon,
Oh, really?
Cameroon, Angola, South Africa, and Ghana in that order.
Oh, really? Um, Tell us about the experience in any one of them as you so see fit, and yeah.
Well, for me, in my dreams, I used to dream about this energy. And because I'd never experienced it, even though I dreamt it, I still couldn't imagine what it was. And so when I went to Cameroon, the first time I went to Cameroon was in 2013. And I met that energy. It's the vibe of the people, the love of the people, the energy, the expression of the people just surpass any other country. And that's another way that I identify as being from Cameroon. And one particular summer, I think it was 2021. Uh, Let me back up a moment. because I have visited so many different countries and I have been welcomed in every country, I never really wanted to know my specific ethnic group that I come from. I was satisfied being accepted across the board in every country that I went to. For whatever reason, I just did not want to know my specific people that I came from. And but this summer was different. I call this summer the Kings and Queens summer because I was traveling with some friends and different ones would say, hey, I'm going to my village. I'm going to have an audience with the king. And the king normally doesn't have audience with people if you didn't make an appointment in advance. So don't expect to see the king, but I'm going to do my business with the king. So they actually had a conference meeting with the king. And after the meeting, the king told his people to bring me back into his office. So I had a chance to meet him of the Banner people. And then we went to the Bamoon Kingdom, where I met the late Njoya, the Sultan, which is one of the biggest chiefs in Cameroon. And it actually was that meeting with him. I was the last American visit before he passed away, because I think he died like 2 or 3 weeks later.
Wow.
Yes. And
I gotta ask you. I gotta stop you there because I don't know. Step back just a tad and to explain this. You go into the people. You go with your friends, and they say, "I'm gonna meet the king." Is he like the mayor of the town, or the president of the town or the kingdom, and he's sitting in some office in the back, and guards all around him? And what is that dynamic?
Uh, yes. If they are the paramount chief, they're not so much the mayor of their town. They are the ruler of that ethnic group and
Okay.
groupings of people. So with King Njoya, he was the paramount chief of the Bamoon people. And his palace was situated in a city called Fuban. So um, I don't know how many ethnic groups fall up under there, but there's many up under the Bamileke name.
Okay.
So, which means that he is over millions of people.
Wow.
He's the
I
he was the paramount chief, and as I understand it, it may vary from kingdom to kingdom, but they have like secondary chiefs that's over so many ethnic groups, and then the third level chieftaincy, which is up under the second, and they're up under so many.
okay. Let me ask you this: when you saw him, do you bow at the beginning? Do you kiss his hand? Uh,
Well, each
did you
one,
bring a gift? How does that go?
yes, you do bring a gift. You do pay some type of tribute. Each kingdom, before you get an audience with the king, because they know that you're an outsider, they will give you instruction. Like in some kingdoms, do the clap 1, 2, 3, but you got to have your hands like this, not like this, and you bow. And then some kingdoms, you just simply bow. Some kingdoms, you can't touch the king, so you stay so far away from the king. And other kingdoms, the king will extend his hand, and you get to shake his hand or her hand if you happen to be with a woman king. So it varies from kingdom to kingdom, but because of their traditions, they're quick to educate you on how to govern yourself when you go into these kingdoms. And most of the kingdoms have a palace, and the palaces are arranged to the king's liking. And there's something, what I found is that if you go to Europe or America, you go to museums to find out the history of the community, the history of where you're finding yourself. But in Africa, specifically Cameroon, it is the kingdoms that are the holders and keepers of the language, the heritage, the culture, the people. Everything you want to know is in the kingdom. Excuse me. And that's why I have designed some kingdom tours under the YCL PDP program, which stands for Youth Cultural Language Preservation Discovery Program. It's where I take youth into the various kingdoms to learn about the history of the kingdom, the language, the food, the dress, the succession of the kings, how it's done, how do they choose the king, even in some kingdoms, you will learn about traditional herbs and medicines, secret societies and their function in the community, the women's societies and their roles, the roles of the queens and the queen mothers. You learn everything in the kingdom.
I got to ask you this. Have you ever gone in front of a king and did something wrong? The way he like, and then he shooed you away. And you're like, oh, I know I messed up. I smiled, I winked, or whatever. Does that ever happen? And you know, just being new and novice to how this goes?
No, but I learned quickly. And I believe I have a video up about this um, in the kingdom of, well, I'll just say a West Cameroonian kingdom. It's customary for the people of the kingdom to get wives for the king, and they will come bearing gifts. And if you accept that gift, you're married to the king.
Oh. So one time that happened to you, where he wanted to marry you?
Yes. So, having
What did
learned
you do? Run
that,
out the door?
say that again.
Did you run out the door?
No, I didn't run. I just politely suggested that I have a husband and I'm sorry I can't take you up on this offer. I'm not free to engage.
Yeah.
So that's another thing um, to talk about. Like I said in the opening, the people of the community, it seems as if they're always looking for a new wife for the king. So a king in Cameroon, in some other Western countries, there's no limit of wives, be it from the king and or the ordinary man. So our whole concept of one man, one woman is just strictly for the West and those that may take on that practice. But if you are a king, it's expected that you will have a harem of wives.
Okay, that leads to this question then. What is the what is the role of women in some of these kingdoms? I mean, can a woman be powerful and talk back? I don't know. Yeah. You get what I'm saying.
Why do the men always want to shut women up?
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, if he can just say, "I want you as my wife." I don't know. You get where I'm coming from with that.
I do, but women do have very vital roles, and um, in ways that we would not understand. It is the women who actually pick wives for the king, or women that pick wives for their husbands or their sons. And so, say if you're married to an African man, and for whatever reason, be it children, that's something that is very important. A wife is expected to produce children, but say if you're married 5, 6 years and you haven't produced any children, then that mother has the power to go get a wife and bring him into her son's home as a second wife.
Mm. Okay.
And the son will accept it. He won't say, oh no, her hips not big enough, or she's not my type. None of that. He will accept it. That's the power that women wield. And of course, men accept that.
Let me ask you this. When you went to see the king, what did you wear? African, I mean, when do you put on African clothes?
It depends on my role. If I have like when I went to meet in the kingdom of Bana, it was casual because I didn't have a role in that particular meeting. So I had on an African dress, but it was casual. But if I have a role as a speaker or a presenter, I will wear my full African garb. If I am in the role of the queen, which I am, we haven't talked about yet, I would definitely have on my royal attire.
All right, let's talk about that right now. Let's talk about you as the queen. What does that mean, and how did that happen? And what's your name? What have you? What do you want to share about you being the queen?
Okay, well, going back to talking about that energy of Cameroon, and it's unlike any other. When I began to talk about the king and queen too, well, anyway, it just began to happen. I think this was in 20. Well, the first time I became queen was in Ghana in 2016, and then after that in 2022. I picked up 4 more titles. So every kingdom that I went into, that I was introduced, the king immediately crowned me either the Mafo or the Nkunkuma. So I carry 3 titles of Mafo for 3 different kingdoms and 1 title of Nkunkuma. And what's different between Nkunkuma and Mafo, Nkunkuma is woman king. So I have 3 queen titles and 1 king title. Now, for the kingdom of Belang, that was the very first title that was given to me. The role that I play, I am a representative of the 6th region to the African Union. And I design initiatives that the kingdom follows out. So one of the initiatives that I initiated in the kingdom is learning the Nega Pay Long language, which is the language of the Belang people, because we believe in Africa first. And the first thing we should be able to do, as I opened up my introduction, is from person to person, is speak the native language first. Because when you speak your native language, it's a vibration that's unlike the colonial languages. And I had this actually tested in 2011 at The Ohio State University. I did a Kwanzaa program, and I had over 300 people there, but I do a head count, right? So of the 300 people, there were 13 different African nations represented alongside of the African Americans. And my spirit just kept telling me, no English, no French in this whole program. Everybody would speak, sing, recite their poetry in their native language. And so there was a lady from Mauritania that was speaking Pular, and she played a song and she sang a song. And in like midway in that song, everybody in the auditorium jumped up and started clapping their hands and dancing in the aisle. And I'm like, nobody know what this lady's saying but her and her accompanist. But everybody in the auditorium connected with what she was saying. And that's when it hit me that when we hear the native language, we get to hear the voices of our ancestors, and it reinforced what that king told me in my first dream, that the spirit of Africa is one. So after that performance, I went to her and I asked her, what was she singing about? Because it lit everybody on fire. And she said, I was singing about brotherhood and unity.
I love it.
That was a powerful, powerful day. And so with that, I have been working with the African Union, with the Academy, African Academy of Languages, for African Languages Week, which is every year, February the 21st through February the 28th. So for the African, I encourage them, like in the kingdom, if you're not actively speaking, teaching, writing your language, then we need to develop initiatives to get the youth and everybody involved in reliving their language. For those that's in the diaspora, like you and I, born and raised in the city of Detroit, born outside of Africa, we don't know what our native language is, but we can borrow, or we can learn and become one with those on the continent.
Let me ask you this, and so this is for clarity. Okay, so initially you were going to Africa as a visitor.
Yes.
And then that turned into what? For you to be able to do these programs and the kings to know you so often, you then transform this into a business or a foundation, what? For you to get to be able to do the things you're talking about, working with the languages, what happened? What happened?
Okay. Good question. Yes. What happened was before I graduated from college, taking all of my degrees, I used to teach at Marygrove College, right there in the city of Detroit. So I thought once I graduated with my degrees, I would be able to continue to teach in my field. Well, year by year would go by and I was not getting a teaching job in African American history. So they had explained to me, you know how they do those surveys about students graduating from school, that if they don't get get a job in their profession within 10 years, that degree basically it was wasted. And so I had that in the back of my mind. I said, I have to keep my degree relevant. I have to keep my degree relevant. And so that's when I formed the African Roots and Heritage Foundation. And our vision and mission at that time was to bring artists together and to explore culture. And so it has grown from that point to include public programming. We do Kwanzaa, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, any notables. And then I moved to Ohio and I began to work with The Ohio State University at the African and African American Cultural Center. And we began to do the Spotlight on Africa, where we would bring in speakers from Africa, right now, what's going on in the Congo. We brought in Maurice Kandi to talk about what was happening in the Congo then, and it has escalated right now. So we would do the Kwanzaa programs and so much more in conjunction with The Ohio State University. And so
at this point, you're going back and forth to Africa still, though, right?
Well, for a period of time, I didn't travel.
Okay.
So in 2012, after we had successfully completed 3 African Roots and Heritage festivals, where I had actually notified. I put Africa on notice, didn't even know what I was doing, to tell the truth. And that was during the time of the faxing. And what I did was I felt that what we were doing was so important that every ambassador and dignitary needed to know about what was happening in Columbus, Ohio at that time. And so I faxed invitation letters to all the ambassadors to attend. And what I didn't know was I didn't know my future. So the very next year, I got a call from Ethiopia asking me to come and participate in the um, third Pan-African Cultural Congress. And I was like, how did I get here? And when I got there, all the ambassadors greeted me. They said, this is the wonderful lady in Ohio that's doing great work in the USA.
Oh, I got it. I got it.
And I'm like, well, I'm not putting the dots together,
I
but
got it.
they recognized me because I set up the fax machine and I faxed letters to every office all night long for 2 or 3 days. And some of them responded and some of them didn't respond. So I said, oh, well, but it wasn't until I got there, they knew who I was because I made them know the work that I was doing.
Okay, let me stop you there. For somebody who's watching this, what you said was you went out on faith and something miraculous happened.
Well, you know what I would say? I would say I was walking in purpose. I was walking in destiny, because if you would have asked me what was going to be the effect of me inviting the ambassadors, my only answer would have been, I hope they come. I never looked at the impact that it would make from me doing it. I just wanted them to come. So destiny had me do it. So I was walking in my purpose. I was walking in my destiny. And because of that, it got me to the African Union. And once I made my presence known, then I immediately was elected as an official for the 6th region. Now, if you know anything about the international politics, in 2010, the African Union made a definition of the diaspora and created the 6th region. The 6th region is everyone born outside of Africa. So I represent the United States of America to the African Union.
Wow.
And what is unprecedented about it is that there are Pan-African groups that have been trying. They actually wrote the ways to go through the election process to get an individual elected to serve in that position as a representative of the 6th region. I went through the Department of Social Affairs. The rest of the people are going through ECOSOC. And what I have told ECOSOC at their 10-year anniversary, because they said, oh, woe is us, we still haven't got anyone elected. And I said, I have been elected. And what elected means is a body of people nominate you and you get elected, and then they pay for you to participate in the meetings. What is unique about that is because the United States is a sovereign nation, how could I say this? Because the United States is a sovereign nation, unlike, say, Jamaica or the Bahamas, my government is not a part of this. If you get what I'm saying.
Okay.
So, but the African Union recognized me fully, and I have all rights issued pertaining to my position and post.
All right, let me ask you this, and we jamming, everybody. Y'all getting it? I got something special in front of me. You sitting at this meeting the first time, and do you know what to say? and you just sitting there like, what do y'all want me here for? And then somebody looks over to you and says, "Let me tell you what I got planned for you." Is that kind of how it went?
Pretty much. Pretty much. What happened when I went, and this I have to say, I went out on faith, because each time I had traveled up to this point, I had traveled with a group, or if I traveled by myself, I was traveling to meet people I already knew. In this one instance, I was traveling by myself and I didn't know anybody
In Ethiopia.
in Ethiopia. And I was scared. But I'm going to tell you how destiny works. So when I first got to the airport, I met a young man. He was from, where was he from? He was going to Swaziland, which they call Iswati now, for the king's annual Virgin Festival. I for the world of me, the words are escaping
Okay.
me.
Okay.
But we talked all the way on that first flight till we got to Washington, D.C. And then I think when we got on the airplane, we, we went our separate ways. But another individual I met and kept me company on that last leg of my flight. And he was one of the young men that was part of the Doctors Without Borders. And my God, I can't even remember his name. But anyway, he was going to meet the king of Eswati because he had met his wife and his daughter, and they had her coming out party when she graduated from college in California. So
Okay.
I made connections with them. And so that really set the precedent as to what would happen on this trip. So when I got off the plane in Ethiopia and got to the African Union, there was one gentleman in particular, and I thank God for him every day. He introduced me to everybody there. I'm a shy person. People do not
Oh
believe
no, don't
it.
say that.
People do not believe it. I am
Don't say
shy.
that.
I am shy. If you don't approach me, it's hard for me to say, but put me in front of a crowd, I can speak and talk all day.
Okay.
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 So it's
Okay.
that one-on-one. So this one person took me and introduced me to everybody there. And that's how it went. It was a 3-day session and it was wonderful. But I sat there because I never been there before. Some of them recognized me because of the letters, and that helped really break the ice. And I was just like a kid. I was listening, taking everything in because I didn't want to make a mistake. Because I felt like a fish out of water.
I got you.
I found that was my tank. That was my tank. And I had been welcomed there and have served on many commissions. Actually, I worked with the African Audiovisual Commission in 2018, where we wrote and we signed a treaty and we had it ratified with all of the member states. And these are kind of things that as a child you read about, writing a treaty, getting it ratified, getting it signed. And here I am living it.
I ain't gonna lie, I never thought about that. So I don't even know what that's like. But I get the gist. Yeah, okay.
Well, it's awesome. It's awesome when you know that you're impacting multiple societies. And this treaty was basically setting the standards for filmmaking in Africa.
Oh, I see.
So we designed the bar of excellence. So with the member states, they would share that with their upcoming filmmakers to give them guidelines as to how you want to represent your country, because everything you're doing is not just for you. The whole world is watching. So we
I,
expected standards for the film industry.
I got to ask you. Hopefully, you don't mind this question. I mean, no disrespect. How did you afford this? You follow me? I mean, were you still working here in America, or they were eventually paying you to come there to work? Yeah,
As a representative, all expenses are paid for. Uh, when I went as an individual, my job, I still had my job at the college that paid for it.
oh, because let me back up here, everybody. You got your doctorate,
Yes.
okay? So you're a full-fledged at some point were a professor, right? You said that earlier, but yes, yeah, you're a full-fledged professor. So um and as a doctor, when you went to Africa, you did tell them I have a PhD. So they knew you were the real deal and could write, could think, whatever, right? They could trust your judgment.
Yes. And when you're in the meetings, you get to know people's strengths and weaknesses, because most of the meetings are 3 days or 2.5 days. And those 2.5 days, you have to come in and hammer out a document. And the last half day, you're spending that time proving your work and making sure that it's acceptable to be submitted, because this was high level work. Once we finish our work, our documents are then handed over to the ambassadors of the various countries, and they, as ambassadors, go and take it to their presidents. So I had the opportunity in 2023 to actually be the chair of to write the Dakar statement. We met in Dakar, Senegal, for the African Languages Week, and I was actually the chair. And this is another one of those magic moments. Normally, I like to sit back and observe and know how to proceed forward. And by unanimous decision, my team said, no, we want her to chair this committee. We want her to chair this committee. And I'm like, no, I think someone else should do it. But everybody, it was unanimous. So I said, you know what? God is telling me this is for me. And so I went ahead and I accepted. And we wrote the charter. Then we wrote the statement. And when we finished the statement, I learned something that I didn't know, because I was the chairman of the committee, which I think it was 7 or 8 of us that actually wrote the document. But as the chairman, I get the credit for writing the document.
Let me ask you this: the people on the committee, are they from the United States or are they from other African nations?
They're from other African nations.
All right. The people that you are dealing with in these meetings, they all speak English, or you have to have an interpreter?
We have to have an interpreter because they come from all over. And because they're high level meetings, they have interpreters in many of the languages. So that's how we're able to get along in the meeting, because everyone has a headset that can tune in to the specific language that they need to hear.
And in these meetings, yeah, shucks. When do you eat? How do you eat? Yeah, when is lunch, and is it African? I know it's African food. How does that go? And not just lunch. How when does it get light? When you're not so intense on working, they have receptions in the evening, and now you're drinking and stuff like that. How does that go?
Well, usually they have an opening reception and a closing reception. Depending on the agency, we may have a gala where they have a full program with music and dancing, and the atmosphere can become very light at that point. Actually, when the very first time I was at the African Union, the very first night was the gala. And I
This
thought,
royalty like we see it in Coming to America, and you dressed to the nines
yes,
and sharp, and the food is coming on the trays and stuff like that.
yes, yes, all of that. It's a variety. From country to country is different, but nevertheless, it is something to behold and to enjoy.
Do you dance?
The first time that I went, I did not dance because actually I had just had an operation some 3 weeks and I had not fully healed. And my doctor had given me permission to go. So I knew not to overdo, uh, to overdo myself because it
Yeah,
was a major operation.
yeah, yeah.
So I
But
sat
sometimes you do dance.
Oh yes, I
You
will
do
dance.
the Detroit dance, or what do you do? Their dance? How do you dance?
I, you know this.
Yeah, oh, that kind of thing.
Or
What kind of music
depending
is
on
it?
the dance, you might go ahead and copy the style of the dancer.
Yeah.
So it's not hard to catch on.
And what kind of music is it? Their music, or is it some American rap music, or Motown, or what?
I haven't witnessed any Motown, but I would say uh, maybe 50 to 60% of it is some form of jazz, be it African jazz, swing, high life, or American jazz.
I got you.
Mhm.
As we almost come to a close, let's tell us about your foundation and the work you do with that. You might have alluded to it earlier, but you've done programs outside of this African Union, I suspect. Tell us a little bit about that, so on and so forth, and the website, what have
Yes. Well, I'll start with the website. The website is www.arhf.net, and that stands for African Roots and Heritage Foundation. We are a nonprofit organization with a 501c3. We have operated in the state of Michigan, state of Ohio, as well as the state of Kentucky. In 2023, we also opened up our first international branch in Cameroon, Central Africa. We do public programming. One of the programs that's coming up this September is our DRP, which stands for Diaspora Reconnection Program. And we're going to um, Ghana, Togo, and Benin, September 4th through the 20th, 2025. And that tour is called The Three Faces of Africa. In addition, we have our Global Day of Community Service. This is one of our signature programs or hallmark programs that started when we started in 2005. This program is where we go into the community, be it high school, college, orphanages, and even various kingdoms, and we examine the needs. We ask the students to write an essay, which leads to our signature program, which is the Anita M. Jope Scholarship of Excellence, where you write an essay on a given topic, and if selected, you have the opportunity to obtain a monetary scholarship and or computer equipment, laptops, Wi-Fi boxes, and the like. Another program that we have that I mentioned earlier is the YCLPDP, which is the Youth Cultural Language Preservation Discovery Program, where we're looking now to bring American students between a minimum of 16 years old and up to come and participate and learn the history, culture, and language, and much, much more in the kingdoms of Cameroon. We have partnerships with the University of Yaoundé 1, the University of Shang, as well as the Yaoundé International Business School. And it's my hope, my vision to bring young African American students and even those from the Caribbean to be joined with the students in Cameroon, in Chad, in Nigeria, in Ghana, to share culture. This is the way forward. This is what our ancestors are asking us to do, to uplift, motivate, and inspire the youth, that we are ready as we're going through this shift and change in power to prepare every African. And when I say African, those of Negro descent, be it in America, the Caribbean, the UK, and Africa itself, being prepared for our future, our children, our future. And we must imbue them with the knowledge of technology, self-love, self-determination, self-identification, to be able to withstand the things that are happening in the US, but most importantly, to prepare them to be the leaders that we can have pride in for our future.
Wow. Have you ever cried doing this? Tears of joy when you close your eyes and said, "Man, oh man, I'm off of Detroit on Dexter, and look at where I am." Has that ever happened?
No, but I have had that effect on people. When we were in Tanzania at the Artisan Conference, one of the ladies, she bills me as the lady that makes you cry. And in profound wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. I came from not the Dexter of the day, but I came from the Dexter that was affluent. So,
Have you gotten awards?
Yes, I have received awards. My latest awards I received from the African Diaspora Development Institute, that's led by former Ambassador Ericana Chumbari Cho. If
Okay.
And more. I have I'm in Who's Who in America, Who's Who in History, Who's Who in the East, Who's Who in the international world, Who's Who in Africa, are just some of the awards that I have received.
Wow. Hey, everybody, this is Anthony Brogdon. My God, I didn't know it was going to get that deep. I did what I could to try to get us there because she was saying stuff and I had to, baby, let me help. Not baby, let me try to understand this. This is way over my head. There's no question. And what happened was I had an event here in Detroit called Living in Africa. She was there. And I had another guy who was from another country in Africa, and her friend who brought her, she kind of looked at me like, "Hey, you better have her say something." And I mean, right now. And I took the hint, and it was on and popping. And then I invited her to come on the show, and here we are. Let me say this. I don't know any other word but an icon on the show. An icon, and a couple years behind me, but a classmate too. She went to the same high school I went to.
That's
and
correct.
Did all that. And there was lessons in this where she took the step and she faxed out those letters. Somebody responded to the letters. It took maybe a year later or something. But nonetheless, that happened because she took the step. And God took it the rest of the way and has kept her safe.
Absolutely.
The whole time. And has had some experiences that you can only dream of. Absolutely. Only dream of. I asked her, y'all heard me ask her, did you dance? She said, I did what they did. Hey, with the Detroit swag. I got to put my hometown in there.
Oh, yes.
Unbelievable. Yes. So hit the subscribe button, Strong Inspirations. Hit the like button on this. There is no love button, but I know you loved it because I'm going to ask her at any time she's doing something. Please come back on here. You got a standing invitation. Wherever you at in the world, it's Zoom. Come on back. and then hit the notifications bell so you get a ding shot, that we have new content here at Strong Inspirations. And tell somebody about us. You see what I'm doing and what the people who come on here, somehow they vet me too. I'm sure they know my heart is pure and with good intent. And that's how this happens. Um, Go to her website. It's going to be in the description, so on and so forth. Follow her. Is there a way, because you're not, people can donate to you? Is that an option?
Absolutely. They
Okay.
can donate Cash App, $ ARHF, or Zelle, Anita M. Diop at gmail.com.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna put all that in the description. Y'all can do that so that she can continue with her efforts, uh, as she has done so eloquently up to this year of 20. And then go to my website, everybody, businessintheblack.net. Get you a book. I appreciate it. That's my fundraiser. How about this? And to you, my sister, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna let you have the last word. I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. I love who you become because somehow you had that dream. And you said you were 6. You remember it. You were standing in the driveway, didn't get hit by no car coming out or nothing like that. And the day was sunny. And then you said, oh, man, I'm going to follow up on this. And many years later, you did to the highest height, got the highest height in education, so on and so forth. And then faxed out letters and look at where it led you. That's a beautiful thing. Did your mom get to see some of this kind of
She,
go down and trip out on you and stuff like that?
yeah, she in 1997, my very first trip, I said to myself, "There's no way I can go to Africa. The first person in my family, I could go by myself." I said, "I have to take my mother." So my mother was reluctant, actually, and I had to go through the role of getting her birth certificate corrected before she could get her passport. And I got everything set up and paid for her trip. And I told her, only thing you need is your spending money because you're going on this trip. And so I took control over everything. And when we got there, my mother was the most African of them all. And
Yes.
she reconnected on a level that I didn't even anticipate. And I definitely
Yes.
didn't anticipate it from her because she was so reluctant. She
Yes.
just didn't want to go.
Yes.
And but she enjoyed it, and everyone on the trip enjoyed her being present because she was you have to learn how to negotiate for prices. My mother was good at that. See, I'm
Yes.
still trying to negotiate, but my mother can't got off the plane and she negotiate for herself, and then everybody started coming to her and negotiate for me, the
Yes.
prices
I
of the.
love it. I love it.
Mhm.
So stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind, keep doing what you're doing. I want you to have the last word. Say goodbye to us and whatever message you want to have in some native language as you see fit, however you want to do it, please.
Absolutely. I just want to say, just for African Languages Week, it is coming up February 21st through the 28th. I urge you to learn how to say hello, goodbye, thank you, something in the African language. We want to make it normal to hear Nanga Def, Manga Fari, which is hello, how are you, in Wola, the Senegalese people in West Africa. So to say goodbye, Baraka means thank you. Kwaheri ya kukaona. Goodbye until we meet again. That is Kiswahili.
Thank you. Bye bye. We out.